Alright, you already know I had to put some respect on your boy Super Saiyan Goku's name. I had to let him rock. He's just too handsome not to respect. He really is a beautiful individual. But with that being said, we're in the Android Dragon Ball History event. I don't know why. I really like coming back here and running this event. It's a fun event. It's great. It's amazing. But the reason why I wanted to make this video is to simply try to shill my opinion and try to maybe, possibly contribute to some greatness that could be associated with this game. And now what I mean by that is, Jesus, that's a lot of names. What I mean by that is, recently, past like month or so, a lot of people have been making videos around the subject of the new subscription service that is coming to Dokkan. There's been some speculation in regards to it, but not a lot of information has been revealed. All that's really known is that the intention is that it's going to be a subscription service you pay for, and because you're paying for it, you're going to get something in return. There's some speculation. I think that this service could go one of two ways. It could either be Peel Off Trove 2.0, where you get some Dragon Stones a day, some tickets, some bullshit, whatever. And that ends up being the reason why you pay for the subscription. Or it could go another way, which is what I'm hoping it goes, and that is it just simply makes the game better and more enjoyable. Now, the reason why I don't want it to go the route of simply giving you more rewards, and first of all, here's the thing with the rewards, right? We saw this happen when Peel Off Trove was released. When it first came out, the idea was kind of interesting. People were interested. They're like, oh, you know what? Instead of buying overpriced Dragon Stones, maybe we could get a pack for a specific banner, or just have something where something is a little bit more unique, a little bit more fair in terms of how much money you pay, and see what happens. And as you can see with Peel Off Trove, very rarely will people buy it because the rates in terms of price is not that great. The rewards are not that great. You end up paying $20 for a couple of orbs and a few Dragon Stones. And you're like, all right, I'm not paying this. I'm not buying this. But, you know, you've seen some idiots actually buy the, you know, that Goku pack, for example. You pay $7, you get 5 tickets, or actually you get 5 characters with 1 ticket, which was an okay deal. It was all right. So more people bought that. So that's one thing. Bandai is not going to let this subscription service give you a shit ton of rewards because it would undercut their revenue that they're getting from Dragon Stones, and they don't want that to happen. So it's not going to be that great. So that's why I think instead of going the route of, hey, you know what, here's a couple of more rewards, here's this and that, something that could be a lot more useful and a lot more beneficial in the long term would be something that is a subscription service that is funded by fans of the game for fans of the game. Now, you know, I give a good example, I think, for me personally, is like things that I subscribe to or things that just make the service better. For example, I subscribe to YouTube Red just for the simple fact that there's no ads on mobile and you get to use it for music and it's more enjoyable. That's kind of the same thing with Dokkan. I think they should really use the subscription service to just make the game better. You don't necessarily need to add exclusive rewards or a little bit more incentive. I think in order for it to be successful, they could really just make the game better. Now, this can tend towards where, you know, eventually everyone gets this, but at the very least, let the people who pay for the subscription get this first. So, first and foremost, I think certain annoying things about the game should just be eliminated if you're paying a subscription fee and you want to enjoy the game. Now, as you may know, I like playing this event. This is a pretty fun event, and it's one of the few events that does not require STA. So this game, after 4 years, still requires stamina in order to play events. It still has the 5-minute countdown. It still is a gigantic block between individuals playing the game more and enjoying it more. And I think that, in general, most people, when they play this game and the stamina hits 0, they just put the game down. Like, very rarely have I found myself paying Dragon Stones in order to play the game more. Like, it's very rare where I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll pay some Dragon Stones. I'll do this just to play the game more. Very rarely I'll do that, and I think most people do that where they don't bother paying to play because it's just a waste of stones, and eventually you're just going to end up wasting it. Same thing as like when you were playing an event and you lose and you pay in order to retry. Almost everyone knows not to do that. So I feel like that's something they could get rid of, and because people are paying for a subscription, it ends up being kind of more of a service where individuals pay, you get to play more, and in general, I think this is a beneficial thing because what's going to end up happening is that people are going to end up playing the game more, enjoying the game more, And it's not a bad thing to have people playing the game and enjoying it more. Now, and another reason why I think they shouldn't go the short route of giving more rewards is that if you look at games that have done this and don't have the most content or aren't as fun, it really adds little to nothing. I mean, Naruto Blazing is a great example of this, where I'll sign in, you get a free summon, a free multi-summon sometimes, and the fake golds are still in the game. They didn't fix that. The events are still, some of them are impossible to play unless you have certain cards. There's certain features in the game where it's just so hard to play that game, and most people don't play the game now. Like, most people, well, not most people, but they have been losing a player base, and the same is true for Pokemon Masters. Pokemon Masters recently implemented something where they give you a free multi-summon every day, basically, or not a free multi-summon, free single summon every day, essentially. And people are just dropping off that game like no tomorrow. Like, people are just dropping that game because they do not want to stick around for something that isn't as interesting and not as fun. So those small rewards aren't always as important as just making the game more fun. So one thing I definitely they could do is get rid of the STA, let people play longer. And another thing that goes along with this is that they could definitely use this subscription money that they get, because again, the idea is that people are paying the subscription fee because they like the game, they enjoy the game, they want to see improvements in the game. Thus, then the money that they're getting from the subscription should then go into, a large sum of it should go into making the game better, because eventually you're going to get to a point where players are subscribing at a larger rate, they're enjoying the game more so than not enjoying the game. And I think it'll just be a lot easier to keep the game going if that is kind of the precedent being set. So, again, another thing that I think they can definitely make better is that general performance of the game, general kind of user-facing changes. For example, when it comes to performance, a lot of the time I think of the Portal of Memories. I think a large reason why the Portal of Memories was even implemented is because that when you have a lot of events in one section, when you look at the quest page and you see all those list of events, it literally just nukes the game, and the game server cannot handle it. It's a lot slower, it's a lot less responsive. And I think something like that is a good example of something that they could make better, that's something they could improve. And because you're now getting this new stream of revenue and this new interest in making the game better, that may be something that is a reality. So that's a potential positive. And also, another thing to take into consideration is just general quality of life updates being upgraded quicker and at a faster rate in the sense of what people want. Now, what I mean by this is that there's certain quality of life things that may come eventually, but a lot of things do take a long time. I mean, for example, the eventual 999 increase of items was amazing. That was super cool. But it was about 2 years too late. Like, people wanted that a lot earlier, and it came a lot later. And now, for me, another thing I would complain about in this game is the friend system. The friend system is pretty annoying, where you can't always find people you want to play with. You can't repeatedly play with people. I feel like that's something that they could make a change, and that's something that they should make a change for in order to make the game more enjoyable. And again, the idea being here that this game has been out for 4 years, and this is something that, in terms of a business and software especially, people say regularly, is that you shouldn't worry about making your product amazing until you have a user base. And once you have a user base, you now have a reason to make things better, because now you're basically catering to your consumer. And I think it's fair to say Dokkan does have a pretty large player base. It's somewhat consistent. I mean, a lot of people who have played this game, such as myself, from day one are still here. It is still fairly interesting. So I think that by using this money to make the game better, it can only make it better in the long run, where it's just a lot more... It's a lot faster to make changes, it's a lot easier to make changes, and it's something that I think in the future will be a much bigger positive, as opposed to the quick and narrow of, oh, you know what, here's a couple Dragon Stones today, or, you know what, here's some tickets or something to that effect. And like I mentioned before with the Portal of Memories, in terms of making that performance more performant and more optimized, that's great, but I also think that they should definitely open up the game in terms of allowing people to play the Portal of Memory items. If not, for subscription, for people who subscribe, if not immediately everyone gets to play everything without STA, maybe just make it so that you can farm some exclusive event. If you subscribe, there's some event that, similar to the Daily Orb stage, you can go play and get Portal of Memory keys. Because right now you can get 0 keys. There's no way to get keys in the game. Only very rarely, when there's like a special event or something to that effect, they actually let people get Portal of Memory keys. So I feel like that's something that could be a gigantic improvement and something that would make the game a lot more fun. And again, another thing I would like to stress is the whole idea of kind of like making the game better. And again, like I mentioned earlier with like YouTube Red, where I subscribe to it, there's no ads, it's easier to use, etc., etc. It's also a lot less kind of coercive into people making people subscribe. Because I think another important thing is that with the subscription service, they shouldn't go crazy and make people who don't subscribe and are free to play completely annoyed, and they're like, holy shit, this game is ass if you don't pay for it. Obviously, if you pay for it, it should be better, but it shouldn't be something where it alienates people. So, for example, the example I gave earlier, where you can play an event and not use STA, I think that's completely fine and fair to use for like quests and missions, but you probably don't want to do that in the World Tournament, because if you did that in the World Tournament, that probably would piss a lot of people off, and it will get them pretty salty, rightfully so, because that's kind of a more competitive play type of thing. And already there's things that exist in the game that kind of punish people who don't, pay as much, such as AoE units, etc., etc. So I think that it's good that they make the game a lot better for people who pay and subscribe, but not anything crazy where they make the regular game super ass in regard to that. And I think another thing that they really should take into consideration in terms of making the game better is definitely kind of reorganizing their business in terms of how they update things and how they maintain things. So, for example, the quest stages that we have not been updated in a very long time. It's been almost 2 years, if not more, since the quest stages for Dokkan were updated. I think that's something that's a pretty big negative. That was very integral to the game. It's very cool to see in the game. And I feel like that's something that if they were to get more resources, say if they need more employees, more teams, they were to add it. I don't imagine they need a ridiculous man force, but they could definitely reorg and restructure themselves in the sense that they have some teams or some individuals own certain things and take priority for certain things, as opposed to what they're doing now. More than likely is just kind of everyone focusing on one thing. So, for example, quests have been not updated in 2 years. EZAs for strike characters do not exist. New strike characters don't exist. Awakenings for existing strike characters don't exist. Rest in peace, Piccolo Jr. Heroes versus Villains event is a cool event, but it has been updated in eons. It's just kind of sitting there stale. Gem SSRs, I don't know what the point of Gem SSRs are right now. Obviously, if you're new, it's some new source to get an SSR. But I really do think they should definitely add Awakenings for those SSRs and kind of have a maintainability around it so that it's not as stale as it is right now. I mean, like, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan came out 1,000,000 years ago, and that dude never got an Awakening. Now, not an EZA, just an Awakening. That dude got absolutely, positively nothing. Like, give that man an Awakening, please! So I think with this new source of revenue, it's a real opportunity for them to say, hey, listen, people are subscribing to us because they like us and they like the game. So we should take some of this money, if not most of it, and put it into making the game better, put it into more resources, try to make it so that when we are updating the game, we update everything and we maintain everything. Because right now, I feel like for the past year, the only things that have been really kind of maintained and updated is Dokkan events is like the bread and butter of this game. They rarely don't get updated. Obviously, when new units coming out, a new Dokkan event usually comes out. Super Battle Road is something that's updated semi-regularly. The Dokkan Battlefield is not that bad. It is updated fairly regularly. And then also the kind of Legacy of Goku, Dragon Ball Heroes, or Dragon Ball History event like this is kind of cool and is updated semi-regularly. But even so, I definitely do feel like they could do a lot more with the game than what they've been doing. Let's see here. I think I'm a transform Loki. Yes, sir. Yes, I am. But in general, I think they could do a lot better in terms of maintaining the game and making sure that they're updating everything and not just forgetting about certain things, because there's a lot of different things in this game. There's a lot of shit in it. And I can only imagine that certain things do take more priority than others, which is only natural, I'd imagine. It's not like they simply can focus on everything and anything at any given time. So I understand that certain things get updated and certain things don't. But I also think that if you were to give a team of individuals ownership over quests, ownership over certain events, I think it would be a lot easier for them to focus on that. Obviously, they're going to contribute to other things and work on everything else. But if that was their main focus and that's something that they owned as an item, that would be a lot easier for them to say, hey, listen, we own this. We know the ins and outs of this. We can make updates to it. We can try to do something every twice a year maybe. Eventually, if they get good of it, add it, and don't think it's crazy, you could do it quarterly. I feel like it's something that could be a really big positive. So, I don't know. Those are kind of my thoughts on it, because I know kind of the easiest thing, I would imagine, and something that a lot of people probably thought about is that, hey, listen, just give people, Dragon Stones. Just give people a free summon. Just do these quick things that make the game a little bit more enjoyable and give a reason to subscribe. I really hope they don't do that. I hope they realize that people have been playing this game for a fairly long amount of time. People like the game. And that if they were to make these improvements and allow people that subscribe, no STA, certain ways to get limited resources such as portable memory keys, maybe eventually when they get better and things are more optimized, you just get to play all events, just maintaining the game, updating things that exist, adding things to things that existed in the past, and kind of updating everything around it, not letting certain things die. I think it would make it a lot more enjoyable. It would make it a lot more easier to get sucked into the game and just be like, holy shit, like, okay, this unit that I got a million years ago, Android 13 from the quest stages, he's getting an awakening now. There's a new quest stage with a new character that you can get. They don't have to be super omega OP cards, although the most of the free-to-play cards that have been coming out have been pretty damn good. But I think it's something that could, at the very least, be used to foster a greater interest in the game. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you have people playing the game, that's all you really need to worry about, is that, again, as long as you have consumers, as long as you have people who care and like it and enjoy the game, then you should be absolutely fine, which has been the case for Dokkan for a pretty long time, because as I mentioned, games like Pokemon Masters, which just came out, already people are upset that the game is so boring. People are already upset with the choices they've made. And then games that have been out for a while but that have become a little more lackluster, like Naruto Blazing, it's kind of that thing of age really shows, where, they do add some things where it's like free summons, multi-summons, but then the core game itself is really, really bad in terms of quality of life, in terms of just usability, and then also in terms of the meta of you have to summon this character from a banner in order to even complete an event, which Dokkan has been pretty good. A lot of events are free-to-play friendly. A lot of events you don't need the Omega God cards, which I think makes the game a lot more fair and a lot more enjoyable, in my opinion anyway. But that's pretty much it. I definitely hope that the subscription service is not just a tacked-on service that they're like, whatever, we'll just give people some Dragon Stones, we'll hit the dips, call it quits, and it is what it is. It may not be the case, because honestly, Dokkan has been pretty fair in the past, especially the past, 2 years, in terms of, updating stuff, and even stuff that they do in the game that they don't really have to do, in terms of maintainability, they do a pretty good job. Let's look at examples like cards that were from the first anniversary, such as STR Gogeta and Janemba, still being very relevant, very usable today. I mean, they're probably going to get sunsetted. It's probably the end for STR Gogeta and Janemba. I mean, eventually, maybe this time next year, they might be, irrelevant or not as good. But let's be honest, the fact that they gave easy A's to units and brought them back to life, they didn't have to do that. They did not have to do that. They could have just said, fuck it, you get an awakening, a Dokkan awakening, and then we call it quits. And the intention is to bring easy A's for the OG SSRs that are in the game. So I feel like they've definitely been a lot more fair than they need to be. And I hope that they eventually implement this subscription system, and it is not just a cash grab. It's not just another peel-off trove. It's something that they kind of take into consideration. It's something that they try to include players in on, and definitely I think that it could be a force for positivity and something that, obviously, it's a guaranteed source of income. If you have 1 million people subscribing to your service, that's guaranteed money. That's not, okay, our banner was kind of all right, we had people pay, you don't have to put so much stress on the gotcha element. You have a guaranteed stream of income. But let's be honest, money, it's not really an issue at this point in time for Dokkan. If it was, they'd be like, listen, we can't do this anymore, we're shutting down the servers. It is what it is. So I think that in general, Dokkan is a pretty good game. Surprisingly, again, when I first started playing this game, it's because I was bored and I didn't know what I was doing in my life. So I'm like, you know what, I'll play this mobile game. 4 years later, it's probably dude, this is probably the most time I've ever spent with a single game, technically. In terms of like time, I mean, like 4 fucking years playing this like almost every day, at least for 20 minutes. That's pretty significant. So let me just say, daily capsule. I don't know what this is gonna be. I don't know if we're gonna get like a weekly subscription, a monthly subscription. I don't know the specifics, but it would be really great if this came in. They said, you know what, today there's no STA, or every day that you're subscribed, there's no STA. Here's an event to go grind portal memory keys. Here is some type of incentive to, I don't know, because we have, let's just say they make goals. We have 50,000 subscribers. Go on our Facebook, vote. What do you want us to do? Do you want updated quests? Do you want updated EZAs? Do you want strike cards? What do you want them to focus on? They say, you know what? In general, we're going to do things in sequence. We're going to do things as they're prioritized, but we have these paid subscribers. We have these patrons. You know, a lot of people, even on YouTube with Patreon, they have like polls and stuff set up. They say, you know what? We have 30,000 subscribers. They want us to do EZAs for this, that, and the third. They make that a priority. And no matter what, they're going to do everything. They're going to update everything. But you know what? EZA is number one on the list. So I think that's something that could be a gigantic positive and something that maybe something comes down the road. But I guess there's nothing really to know. There's not much to see. And it may not be a couple of months before they even implement this whole subscription service. Hey, you know what? They might just drop this. Might say you might just log in one day and you just see daily capsules gone, and they're like, listen, we never did that. I don't know what you're talking about, stupid. Go fuck yourself. But at the end of the day, what can I say? I like the game. It's pretty fun. I would really like it if they were to implement some type of system where you don't need STA. I would really like it if they implemented some system where you could actually like play the game unlimitedly. As you can see, I have 16 fucking keys left, so once that's out, I'm not shit out of luck in challenges. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know what people are looking for personally. I am looking for the game to get better. I'm looking for things that if I were to subscribe to the service, it's easier to play the game. It's more enjoyable to play the game. But I don't know what people prioritize. Do you prioritize the game being fun and having more content? Or are you just like, just give me the daily summon and the way the game is fine for me? Me personally, I like the former. If you like the latter, fair enough. And by the way, what I'm saying right now, it doesn't have to be my way or the highway. This could be a hybrid of the two. I definitely do think this subscription service could cater to, you know, some type of daily incentive. But I think the more important thing, what should be the more important thing, is that they make the game better overall and it's not ridiculously boring like Naruto Blazing or Pokemon Masters. They always have content maintained, updated, and just makes it fun in general. But with that being said, I am going to go to bed. You know me, I'm a sleepy guy.